The first thing everyone noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the uncomfortable kind that fills a grand marble lobby when something unexpected happens. In a building where billion-dollar deals were made every day, where power spoke loudly through tailored suits and sharp voices, a tired janitor paused his mop, gently placed his hand over his heart, and greeted an elderly woman who could not hear him. What he did next would ripple through that tower and change lives forever. Before this story goes any further, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. His name was Daniel Reyes, a single father who worked the night shift as a janitor in the tallest corporate building in the city. Every evening after tucking his 8-year-old daughter Sophia into bed, he would put on his worn uniform, kiss her forehead, and promise he would be back before sunrise. Life had not been gentle with Daniel. His wife had passed away suddenly 3 years earlier from a brain aneurysm, leaving him alone with a child, unpaid hospital bills, and a grief that never truly slept. Degrees and dreams he once had were packed away in boxes he could no longer afford to open. Cleaning offices became survival, not choice. Daniel learned sign language years earlier, long before tragedy reshaped his life. His younger brother Miguel had been born deaf, and Daniel, still a teenager at the time, refused to let silence build a wall between them. He practiced every night, memorizing gestures, expressions, and emotions carried by hands instead of sound. When Miguel passed away in a car accident a decade later, Daniel never stopped using sign language. It felt like a way of keeping his brother alive, a language of love he could not let go. That morning, Daniel was finishing his shift when the private elevator opened. Out stepped Eleanor Whitmore, the elderly mother of billionaire tech magnate Charles Whitmore, the owner of the building itself. Few employees ever saw her. She visited occasionally, escorted by assistants, her silver hair neatly pinned, her posture proud yet fragile. Most people simply smiled awkwardly or nodded, unsure how to interact once they realized she was deaf. Eleanor was used to that look, the polite distance, the quiet exclusion. But Daniel did not smile awkwardly. He did not look away. He gently straightened, removed his gloves, and greeted her in sign language, his movements slow, respectful, and warm. His hands spoke words her ears could not hear, and in that instant, Eleanor's eyes widened with shock and something deeper. Recognition. Relief. Humanity. The lobby froze. Assistants stopped walking. Security guards paused mid-step. No one expected a janitor to do what executives never bothered to learn. Daniel did not rush. He asked how her morning was, how her health had been, and welcomed her to the building. Eleanor's hands trembled slightly as she responded, her face softening. She had not had a real conversation in this building in years. Most spoke around her, not to her. For the first time, she felt seen. What no one noticed was Daniel's exhaustion. He had barely slept. Sophia had been sick all night, coughing through a fever he could not afford to fully treat. He had considered calling in sick but feared losing the job that barely kept food on the table. His back ached, his hands were cracked from chemicals, and his heart carried the constant worry of a father trying not to fail his child. As Eleanor and Daniel spoke silently, she noticed something else. The kindness in his eyes was not practiced, it was lived. She asked about his life, and slowly, carefully, Daniel shared pieces of it. A widower, a single dad, a janitor who once studied engineering before life collapsed around him. He never asked for pity. He simply told the truth. When Eleanor left the building that day, she did not forget him. Later that afternoon, Daniel was called into the building manager's office. His stomach dropped. Every low-wage worker knows that feeling, the fear that one mistake could erase everything. He worried someone thought he had wasted time talking instead of working. He worried about rent, about Sophia's medicine, about the fragile balance holding his life together. Instead, he was asked to sit. The manager's voice was unusually respectful. Daniel was informed that Mr. Whitmore himself had requested to meet him. Charles Whitmore was not known for sentiment. A self-made billionaire, he valued efficiency, innovation, and results. But when his mother returned home that morning, she was emotional in a way he had not seen since his father died. Through an interpreter, she told him about the janitor who spoke to her like she mattered, who did not see her disability as an inconvenience but as a language worth learning. She told him about Daniel's story, about loss, and about dignity. Charles listened. When Daniel entered the executive floor later that day, the glass walls and city views made him feel invisible and exposed at the same time. He stood awkwardly, hands folded, waiting. Charles Whitmore studied him not as a janitor, but as a man. Daniel did not beg. He did not oversell himself. He answered questions honestly. About his past education. About why he left school. About how he learned sign language. About Sophia. About grief. For the first time in years, someone with power was listening. Days passed. Daniel returned to his routine, unsure if anything would come of it. But something had already changed. Eleanor began visiting the lobby more often, always looking for Daniel. She would sit and converse with him in sign language, laughing silently, sharing stories of her youth, of raising a son who grew too busy to slow down. Daniel would talk about Sophia, about bedtime stories and broken shoes and hopes that felt too fragile to say out loud. Other employees noticed. Executives walking by slowed their steps. Some began asking Daniel to teach them basic signs. The building felt different, softer, more human. Then the letter came. Daniel was offered a position within the company's Accessibility and Inclusion Department, a role created specifically to bridge communication gaps for deaf clients and employees. It came with a salary that nearly tripled his janitor wages, full health benefits, flexible hours, and educational support to finish his degree. He read the letter 3 times before it felt real. That night, he held Sophia tightly as she slept, tears falling silently onto her hair. For the first time since her mother died, Daniel felt like he could breathe. But the true moment came weeks later at a company-wide gathering. Eleanor Whitmore stood beside her son, hands folded. She signed a message that was translated aloud for everyone to hear. She spoke about how success means nothing if it forgets compassion. About how the most powerful voices are not always the loudest. About how a janitor reminded her she was still human in a world that treated her like an inconvenience. She thanked Daniel publicly, not as a charity case, but as an equal. Please pause here and leave a comment sharing where you're watching from, or simply write the word kindness if this moment means something to you. Daniel stood there, overwhelmed, knowing that nothing about his kindness had been strategic. He did not learn sign language to be rewarded. He did not greet Eleanor to be noticed. He did it because love once taught him a language, and he refused to forget it. As months passed, Daniel's life slowly stabilized. Sophia's laughter returned to their small apartment. Bills were paid on time. Dreams resurfaced. Daniel volunteered to teach sign language to staff every Friday afternoon, turning silence into connection. Eleanor continued visiting, often sitting quietly with Sophia, signing stories without sound but full of warmth. Sophia began learning sign language too, her small hands clumsy but eager, bridging generations through movement and care. And Daniel understood something profound. That dignity does not come from titles. That kindness does not require permission. That sometimes, the smallest gestures create the loudest echoes. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that humanity still exists in quiet corners, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories travel further than we ever could. Because somewhere right now, a tired janitor is carrying more than a mop. Somewhere, a silent soul is waiting to be seen. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is a pair of hands willing to speak love.